3,000, that's a lot. Hey everyone, welcome back to the new video. And I noticed that a lot of you guys really enjoy the series where I talk about complex bug chains and how you can exploit such vulnerabilities or find such vulnerabilities during bug bounty hunting. And that's why I picked up a blog today. This is about a real bug bounty chain starting from .git file exposure to remote code execution. We are talking full source code access, hard-coded secrets, and shell on the server, all powered by Sudarshana Attack Surface Management Program. So let's get into it. I'll put the link of this blog in the description as well. So as you can see, this is powered by Sudarshana's ASM Attack Surface Management. If you don't know what ASM is, it's basically a continuous process of identifying, analyzing, mitigating vulnerabilities in assets or in an organization, you can say, in the most simplest words. So as I say, the goal of this blog is to share the real steps we took, what worked, what failed, and the takeaways. I like when people also share what failed, because a lot of people just talk about what worked, but we should also share what failed so we can understand what to avoid. So on June 29, our ASM platform flagged many hits, including the following that looked worth a closer look. So have a look at this image. If you can see, this is exposed git file .git/config. So basically, sometimes what happens is credentials are exposed in the config file, and if you can access directories in the git folder, then you can also clone private repo using those credentials. So what happens here is at first we did not find this special, as firewall usually blocks attempts to download /git/star means basically the files and directories that come in the .git folder contents, but it was added to our queue for review. The next day, June 30, we visited the target casually and noticed it exposed some credentials related to private-owned GitLab instance, and it looked like this. Let me zoom it out for you. So over here, we can see that GitLab CI token, and over here, the token is redacted. So that is the credential here, and using that token, you can clone a private repository from GitLab. Okay. However, on July 3, we went back to check those credentials properly. Upon validating the credentials using Git, the credentials did not work. Hence, we moved towards attempting Git directory dump using the Git dumper. If you don't know what Git dumper is, let me just open it up for you. So it's a tool that basically dumps Git repository from a website. A tool to dump Git repository, simple as that. You can install it in your PC if you want to, and they use exactly Git dumper to find all the folders. So let's go back. Okay, so now we are gonna review the dump. The commands used to dump are as follow. So as we know, Git dumper basically reconstruct the exposed .git directory. So every folder of files that must be inside it, it will try to reconstruct it so you can see the files. So this is the command that was used, python3 gitdumper.py, and then it started working, and all of this output is basically in one line here, but these are the exposed files. We can see the head, and it's giving 200, means it's accessible, and then we have .git, obviously. Then it's trying to fetch common files, and there are many more over here. Okay, let's just look at this line below. One of the 3 files retrieved from the dump, the mail.php file, stood out as the most interesting. It contained over 290 lines of code, which gave us a high level of confidence that it might hold something interesting. So this is the mail.php file we're talking about. Initially, we were expecting to find database or mail service credentials, but upon reading the file from a high-level overview, we confirmed there were none. Honestly, the code was a bit messy as well. We did not want to manually craft requests at this point, so we got LLM to help us by constructing HTTP requests with correct parameters and expected values, obviously making LLM to do the tedious task. I mean, you could see all of the things that were just done now was more of the creative task, like analyzing stuff. It's something is worth looking into. But now we want to do the tedious task, creating HTTP requests and stuff. So we can make LLM do the work for us. Using LLM for lazy work. Passing the entire PHP file to LM with the prompt, can you make me a testing HTTP request? This generated following response. Okay, so let's have a look at the screenshot. This is example curl command, and okay, so this is like the example curl commands, obviously. Example curl command for terminal command line. So we have a post request to that sendmail.php file, and it contains some parameters to email subject, email content, and from email, basically sending an email. Cool. And then we have example with attachment if you want to test display file name. You can send another post request to send mail PHP, but we have another body parameter over here that is display file name, and it contains the path of the file, in this case test.pdf. Note, your PHP code will try to download the URL and attach it. As beginning with simple steps is preferred over throwing full-fledged exploit, we first aimed on validating the mail send functionality. This obviously always check the functionality first if it's even working or not before jumping into exploits. For this, we converted the code request to raw HTTP request to use with burp suite repeater. And this is how it looked like. We got the successful response and the message was sent. That's great. Let's move on. The message send response indicates that something's actually working. Additionally, the response is not received when no parameters are passed in the same endpoint. Okay, on the other hand, we heard beeping notification in my mailbox. And yeah, that's the test email over here. It means this functionality is perfectly working fine. Cool. At this point, we were not sure what was yet to come, but we had found one vulnerability already: unauthorized access to send mail functionality. Obviously, that's some internal functionality and it shouldn't be able to access that. But we have more to go, right? So the next step is exploring file attachment vulnerability. As we saw in the earlier screenshot, that you could also attach files like PDF in the send mail functionality. So that is also pretty much worth looking into. Okay, moving forward to the second example presented by LM, an email with attachment. We attempted to reproduce the vulnerability using the LM curl output and converting it to burp suite repeater. However, despite numerous attempts, we were unsuccessful in sending external interaction to our collaborator URL. As I said, you could provide your external URL over there, so obviously it's a good idea to test by adding your collaborator URL or any external URL to see if this functionality make requests there or not. Additionally, no attachments were observed in the incoming emails as well. This was the moment we choose to manually dig into the email.php file, and we see what was going wrong. In just 2 minutes, we discovered 3 issues that the LM had, despite having full source code available. This one is pretty interesting because even the LM missed this part. The first one is incorrect parameter value. We have this PHP code. So have a look at this piece of line. It says over here, LM got confused and could not determine the correct parameter name. Though we know that if we had forced LM to recheck, it could find this mistake easily. Also, we want to emphasize here how much we trust that whatever output LM has produced, it is correct. That's really good point. Missing additional parameter required to issue external requests. Few of you might have lost me at this point, but keep reading with me, okay? I'll help you understand everything. So another thing that LM missed here is missing additional parameter required to issue external request. So this is the line of code that you can have a look at. And this cannot be claimed as an error right away, but LM could have presented an additional example citing the usage of external parameter to execute a file download operation. And the third point is, or the third mistake of LM is not presenting user input in required format. To have the user input enter in call operation, it has to pass this weird delimiter check and should be starting with this. So as you can see, we have this syntax, and you have to pass the data in curl starting with this weird delimiter for compatibility, and this was again missed by LM in the first place. So as you can see, these are some really important points that were actually missed by LM. So it's always a good idea to double check things. So let's move on to the next step we have is achieving external interaction. So obviously now all the pieces are falling in place. We can send a file name like this. So as you can see, this time the file name starting with this delimiter and the external equals 1, and now it says 200 OK, message is sent. We received HTTP request to the collaborator URL, and now this is the time to share good news. So this is working now. The code left us with surprise and high adrenaline spirit. Okay, so now things are getting interesting if you have a look at this code over here. So what it's basically doing, that it basically takes the file you provide and then it writes it in an arbitrary file path. And this is pretty interesting because what we just tested before was SSR by providing the burp collaborator URL to see if we are receiving HTTP request in the collaborator, and we were, and the message was getting sent. But now the thing is, this path is also getting right in a arbitrary path in the backend. Okay, so let's just read more now. Our next aim was to see if the /pdf or /mail web app /pdf exists on the server. Okay, so from our knowledge, we knew that in PHP web server, if any directory exists, visiting the web server with a valid directory name will redirect to the same endpoint with trailing /, confirming the presence of the directory. So we have the HTTP request /pdf because we want to check PDF exists or not, and then the response contains this location value /pdf/, and it says 301 moved means it is redirecting. So this validation felt like us being only a step away from building a masterpiece Lego. We can easily upload a web shell as there is no validations or blockers on the script. So the next step is delivering the web shell. So let me revise things that we read up until now, because then you might get lost. So first we found out that .git directory is exposed, and then token is also exposed there that can be used to clone a private repo. So it was kind of hard to clone the private repo. That's why they used the git dumper to reconstruct the whole git directory. Once it was reconstructed, we found out that there is a file, mail.php file, which is pretty interesting, and it contained a functionality where you can send an email. Not just you can send an email, you can also attach PDF files. Apparently, those PDF files is not checking origin, there is no validation or anything, so you can also provide any URL and perform some SSRF attack. Not just that, there's also arbitrary file write in the file system. So the other things that we just confirmed, so now it's time for delivering the web shell. Even with this boost, we did not go right away uploading a newbie web shell, which has obvious names like shell.php and is not password protected. This is definitely not recommended as it may put customer servers at a huge stake. So this is the web shell that they use. This is the file name, and then after that we have some code for command execution. As you can see, system cmd. Okay, so they encountered a few minutes of difficulty delivering the web shell, but then the base64 encoded the web shell and delivered it, and then they were getting the response 200 OK for this particular path /pdf/ and then there was the name of the file, the PHP file, as you can see over here. After roving around for a while in the system, I found that the current /pdf directory contains 3,000 plus documents which were downloaded previously for email purposes. From the PDF names, it was determined that these documents contained customer and organization-related sensitive documents, which could result in PII leakage and sensitive business information disclosure. 3,000, that's a lot. And this is the reporting timeline, which is pretty cool, and they were awarded with a 4-digit bounty. That's crazy. So this is pretty interesting, and I really loved reading this and sharing it with you. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you learned something new. Do check out sudarshana.io from link in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.